jury's coming in. The gallery can please, again, be seated and silent, please. All right, jury's back. Go ahead, counsel.
Mr. Edgecomb, are you nervous at this point?
Very.
Can you speak up, please?
Yes, very.
In the mic, okay. And why are you nervous right now?
Due to the circumstances at hand, like my whole life is, pretty much on the line right now.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, have you ever been, questioned, in a proceeding, in a trial before?
No.
So this is new to you?
Yes.
Mr. Edgecomb, do you recall ever being diagnosed with ADD?
Yes, as a child.
And can you explain to the members of the jury, how you kind of prepare yourself as far as, answering questions and kind of dealing with, matters so that you're somewhat comfortable?
I pray a lot, and yeah, mostly just through prayer and, trusting God.
Now, does Attorney Huebner make you nervous at all as far as the way in which you were questioned previously?
More than nervous.
All right. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, how do you feel when the word homicide is used, when you're asked a question regarding involvement in a homicide? How do you feel about that question?
Objection, Your Honor, is to the relevance as to his feelings over the word homicide.
All right, his feelings as to the term is not relevant. Sustained.
Is there any way a question is asked of you that makes you feel a certain way about what occurred on September 22nd of 2020?
Objection, Your Honor,
Yes.
as to his feelings due to questions. I don't see how that's relevant.
Sustained. It's not relevant. His feelings are not relevant about direct or cross-examination. Let's move on. The last answer is stricken.
Mr. Edgecomb, you were asked on cross-examination about why didn't you go to a police station? You recall that?
Yes.
Can you explain your state of mind after, using what you call, self-defense against Mr. Cleereman and going down the stairs? What was on your mind at that particular time?
I was in shock. I couldn't believe what had just taken place.
Now, you were asked as far as, your route going home. Were you thinking about being efficient as far as saving time at the time that you left the scene on September 22nd of 2020?
No, I wasn't really thinking like in those aspects. I was just in shock. I really wasn't. I was still trying to get away from, that whole situation.
Now, you indicated on direct that you had fear, and one of those fears were because you killed a white man. Is that right?
Yes.
And how does that relate to your, if you will, your eagerness to go to a police station after such an occurrence?
That's like it's like one of the last, like at that moment, it's like it wasn't on my mind because I was in fear of, even the police, even if they would believe, what had occurred.
And did that fear of going to the police remain for the entirety of almost 6 months?
Yes. It did so, even upon, being, when the Kentucky trooper pulled me over, like I was even in fear then. They had me on the side of the road by a ditch. They wouldn't even let me stand in front of their cameras. I had in front of their vehicles where they had a dash cam. I had my hands up the whole time, and all 4 officers were like, hey, you can put your hands down, but I was in fear of what they might do, and then, in the situation, and, just figuring out, the dynamics of, the situation that had occurred on September 22nd, if they, were to, figure that out. And I didn't want to go into their custody voluntarily. No one knew where I was, and there was no guarantee like I would make it back, even in their custody safely.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, on cross, the state brought up 2 other lawyers that you had regarding other matters, correct?
Yes.
Now, you testified on direct examination that between you calling and Ruby Mazzell calling, that you were quoted a certain amount of money to retain a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
What was that amount again?
They were in ranges from $50,000 to $140,000.
All right. And did you have $50,000 to $140,000 at the time?
No.
Is that the reason why you had your family set up a GoFundMe on your behalf?
Yes.
Now, in the cases that the state brought up, were those attorneys assigned to you by the court?
They were public defenders. So public defenders.
Okay. So you didn't pay any money when you received a public defender, correct?
No.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, in your mind, is there a distinction from a public defender and, let's say, a local criminal defense attorney?
Yes.
Can you explain to the members of the jury how you perceive the difference between a public defender and a local criminal defense attorney?
As far as a public defender, they don't fight as hard for you, especially being a black person. Like, they don't put in efficient work ethic to help you as far as in matters that are being handled in courts. They tend to not even know who you are upon seeing them. And even going to court, they got to figure out who you are and what your case is. Whereas what I've known, like, if you're paying for a lawyer, they would know who you are and they would help you efficiently and with great ethic in your matters that were at hand. And also too, I was in the understanding that different matters require different lawyers. So in these matters, and in the matters that were discussed previously, and in these matters that we're dealing with today, thought it's different, degrees and matters that they handle as far as, from like a public defender or like a paid attorney.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, the state, they asked a question of you on cross, and they indicated that you said that I can't let them get away, and then you punched them, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, you stated that you were a bit infuriated at that time, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Edgecomb, did you have the firearm on your person at that time that you punched Mr. Cleereman?
Yes.
Well, you had a firearm with 17 shots in it, correct? This is what you testified on direct, right?
Yes.
Why did you not shoot Mr. Cleereman instead of punching him at that particular moment?
I never intended to hurt or harm anyone. That was never like the goal of mine as far as, even, killing or shooting, anything of that matter. So.
And is it true that the only reason why you pulled the trigger is because of self-defense at a time that Mr. Cleereman lunged towards you with what you believe to be an object in his hand?
It was reactionary to him lunging towards me. Yes, the gun just went off. I didn't even, put any thought as to, the gun going off. It wasn't like intended. It was reactionary.
So it was reactionary based off a threat that you perceived at that moment, correct?
Yes, being told I'm gonna kill you.
And did those words, "I'm going to kill you," cause you to believe that you needed to defend yourself at that time?
Yes.
One second, please. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, you keep indicating that you needed to protect yourself against Mr. Cleereman at a very specific time, correct?
Yes.
And can you explain to the members of the jury all those factors that went into your mind at that particular time that you needed to, pull out the weapon, aim it at Mr. Cleereman at a specific time, and, respond as you recall, a reflex or whatever you describe it as, but pulling the trigger at that time? What are those factors?
Me telling him to stop, just to, hey, like, stop, don't come any closer, to see if he would, just be deterred from, even wanting to, pursuing me. Yes, even the threats that were behind them. Can you repeat that question too again?
Well, honestly, I kind of got it myself. But basically, it's just going into the factors that you realized at that very specific moment, the threats that you realized at the time you felt the need to defend yourself.
Yes, the threats behind him being direct in front of me, imminent threat, and him even startling me.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, have you ever had any experience as it relates to weapons training before?
Yes.
And can you explain to the members of the jury what was the training that you received?
In CCW training courses, and also too being working formally in security.
Now, is it, you keep using this term, imminent threat. Is that where you learned that word from? Is that training that you received?
Yes.
Now, can you explain a little bit about the security work that you've done prior in life?
Yes, it was working. I worked side by side with Border Patrol and Coast Guard doing maritime security on various docks. And also too with Ally Barton here at the train station, and also too in Florida.
Okay. One second. just for the jurors' edification, if you could explain, what is an imminent threat to you, Mr. Edgecomb?
Direct person, like close to you, in close proximity of your person, almost evading like your personal space, imminent, direct, clear.
And Mr. Edgecomb, can you explain any emotions or bodily responses that you had to the threat that you perceived on September 22nd?
Yes, I was in fear, like borderline shaking because of, just previously about to get hit. Well, getting hit, and then also too being about to directly get hit, and in which I, ran from and was able to get away from them, directly trying to hit me, deliberately trying to hit me.
And did you have any other bodily experiences that you noticed as a result of that threat?
Just fear and shaking, like, and
Okay. All right, no more questions for you.
Fine. State.
You had weapons training?
yes,
They teach you how to shoot?
no,
Did you have a weapon during this weapons training?
yes. They don't, like, in the training classes, they don't, like, we don't shoot in the class, we go to like a firing range.
So you've been to a firing range to shoot, right?
Yes,
And you realize, and you've been trained on how to hit your target, right?
yes.
No. Thank you.
All right, I'm sending the jury out. We're done with this witness. I think we're going to have one additional witness. Please take a break, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then we'll be back with what I expect to be the last witness. You can step out. Everybody else in the gallery, remain seated and silent, please. All right, very brief recess. We can, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we'll move the defendant. I want the defense last witness ready to go. Short recess, off the record.